Do you know that there is a time skip of around 1,000 years at some point in the Kirby series, thereby affecting the age of Kirby and some other characters? This is one of those things the series has hidden in plain sight to be pieced together, so the evidence isn't straightforward. It requires a few different things to be shown and understood with a little bit of patience. Let's start! In Kirby and the Amazing Mirror, Dark Mind tried to conquer the peaceful Mirror World, turning it into an evil world by corrupting the Dimensional Mirror. The Dimensional Mirror is a special mirror floating in the sky that acts as a portal to the Mirror World. By the end of the game, Dark Mind and Dark Meta Knight, one of his allies, both get defeated and destroyed in the Mirror World, so everything goes back to normal in that reality. Many games later, Kirby Triple Deluxe happened. This is part of the backstory of that game. Taransa stole the Dimensional Mirror from the sky and gifted it to Queen Sectonia. The mirror somehow corrupted her mind towards tyranny, turning her into a villainess. Queen Sectonia then tormented the people from around the area where she lives for many years. Her species has the ability to take over and possess others, and since Sectonia became evil, she abandoned her original body for a new and better one many times over during a long period of time, ultimately looking like a bee by the time the main story in Triple Deluxe takes place. In the main story of that game, in short, Queen Sectonia battles Kirby, loses, possesses a giant plant as her new body, battles Kirby again, loses, and dies. One game later, we get a better idea on how much time Sectonia has been incorporating into herself new bodies from the description of a clone she had. Quote, data was collected from the flower of a giant plant that was discovered during the invasion of this planet. Curiously, it produced a clone of an insect queen source woman. The data includes that of various organisms, spanning a period of over 1,000 years. The mysteries continue. Sectonia possessed a giant flower and died in it, which is why data from there led to a clone of her. The giant plant was not made up of people or something. It stands to reason that the various organisms mentioned refer to all the bodies Sectonia used to have across her life. And since this spans a period of over 1,000 years, that means that from the time of her original body to the time of her death, over 1,000 years have passed. By now you can hopefully imagine how the timeline goes. Let's re-establish it before going over things that support it. Kirby was alive in the events of Amazing Mirror until the end, where the Dimensional Mirror was left like normal floating in the sky. Sometime after that, Taransa took the mirror and gave it to Sectonia, who became the owner of it until she died. Sectonia became evil because of the mirror and then caused some off-screen murders to steal other creatures' bodies for herself, only one at a time, for a period of around 1,000 years until the events of Triple Deluxe happened and Kirby executed her. That is the reason for the time skip. Please remember that timeline of events. While we only have one source that states Sectonia to be over 1,000 years old, plenty of information in Triple Deluxe alone indicates that there was some vaguely long time skip between that game and Amazing Mirror. Queen Sectonia's regular post description states that she has been evil for many years. The ending of the game states that the same happened for a long time. As Sectonia sees it, she transferred herself into so many hosts that she doesn't even remember anymore what her real original form was. Granted, one could argue that this is partially because she's insane, although she's not shown to misremember anything or be irrational in any way beyond this. It was stated that once upon a time she looked similar to her insectoid underling, which indeed she did. And lastly, we have Dark Meta Knight's post-description. Some context first. The Dimensional Mirror now decorates Queen Sectonia's castle. In a what-if storyline that replaces the main story of the game, we get transported to the Mirror World throughout the Dimensional Mirror to fight Dark Meta Knight. His description reads, the strongest shadow of the strongest warrior, kept sealed for endless years in the labyrinth within the mirror, the Black Knight, seeking revenge, resurrects. Well, endless years is obviously hyperbolic, but it goes to show that the next game didn't pull out of nowhere how they were over 1,000 years. Dark Meta Knight was sealed in the Mirror World, a labyrinth since Amazing Mirror. He died in that game, but here he resurrects. So, hear this out. The time skip is objectively of around 1,000 years, keyword being around, and could it cover over 1,000 years instead? Possibly, but not necessarily. The data of Sectonia's original body could cover her since her birth, if so meaning that some amount of these 1,000 plus years happened before she became evil. That is to say, for example, if she was 40 years old when she became evil and possessed many bodies for 980 years until she died, then the description of her clone specifically refers to a period of 1,020 years, meaning that the time skip would only cover 980 years, less than 1,000 years. As you can see, this much is information we can't know for sure. It may be easy to imagine that Sectonia in her first body was young, say in her 20s or less, but there is no evidence of this, and the current data answer is young too, despite having been alive since before Sectonia became evil, therefore being around 1,000 years old at a minimum, but most likely being over 1,000 years old. Now, there are interpretations in which the time skip could easily cover over 1,000 years. For example, Sectonia could have died at the age of 1,300 and have only been 100 years old when she became evil, but lesser assumptions inherently take less speculation. At the same time, we cannot try to lowball the time skip beyond what's reasonable, as if for the sake of wanting to get lesser numbers. Doing so would be putting a higher set age on Sectonia in her original body before she was corrupted, and doing this to a degree is okay, but elevating her age as much as possible can't be justified as something likely. In fact, it would contradict the narrative. Needless to say, from the point of view of how long Kirby lives, he and other characters are still as young as they are portrayed to be, and their age being these massive numbers only indicates that they are yet to live far more as opposed to making them adults. This time skip applies to any alien and weird creature alive before or during the Amazing Mirror if they appear during or after Triple Deluxe, including the likes of Meta Knight, Gooey, Bandana Waddle Dee, and Adeline, who is a regular human. And that leaves us to the last topic. Why would such a time skip happen without the series making a big deal about it? And why would so many characters be able to live this long? Well, first of all, none of that requires an explanation. I will give you one, but that's just something additional. The reason why that happens is because all of it creates mysteries. It's not what a regular person would think of when they imagine mysteries. You see, the creator of the series had a very specific way to define mystery that's a big part of the series for him. He wanted the franchise to continue while treasuring that specific vision he had, and all evidence implies that the current director of the series is doing just that. Fittingly, the description of Sectonia's clone refers to mysteries unfolding next to the info he gives. If technically the use of that word could be a coincidence rather than applying the connotation Sakurai gave to it, I don't even necessarily want you to agree with that observation. My aim is that you would either personally agree with it, or find reasonable that someone may hold that interpretation as a fair possibility. I cover the mysteries of the Kirby series in this playlist, and beware, it's another mind-blowing topic that demands a small amount of investment from your part before you may choose to examine it. Once you do, you may notice that I was being misleading about Adeline. You are a regular human with no superpowers, but Adeline is a human from a fantasy world, a setting defined by its impossibilities and whose creatures defy all reason.